Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. I've been asked to speak about this a lot, primarily from people in my group coaching, but also people around the web, comments on Facebook, YouTube. So I'm going to do my best to tackle medication withdrawal symptoms, okay? Primarily SSRIs, because that seems to be one of the big areas of struggle. So the first thing I will say is I am not a scientist. I am just observing based on my interactions with a lot of people who have had withdrawal symptoms of varying extremes from mild to wild. And so this is my opinion, not stated fact. So let me begin. Withdrawal symptoms can and do happen. And I just did a little Googling here, and there's something called antidepressant discontinuation syndrome. So when you abruptly stop or reduce an SSRI, your brain struggles to adjust to the rapid changes in serotonin levels, leading to a withdrawal syndrome. It can result in something that they're referring to as brain zaps, electrical shock sensations. Usually resolves within weeks, though some individuals will experience longer lasting effects. So obviously they're saying abruptly stopping an SSRI is not a good idea. Tapering is a good idea. So here's the thing. My entire coaching surrounds understanding what symptoms are and what we can do to minimize them. And in my view, symptoms are created when the brain perceives danger. Now, in the case of medication withdrawal, there's literal biochemistry happening, and this serotonin, abrupt stopping of that can cause symptoms. But here's where the perception of danger comes into play. Because I think what happens is when people start to get these symptoms, they can start to research, which is normal, right? We're fact finders. We're trying to figure this out. This is massively uncomfortable and scary, so let me research. And in the medication withdrawal world, there's a lot of information which creates, I'll say, more fear. All right. Now, the symptoms are scary enough, but when you start to read stories of permanent damage and taking years and years and years to get better and nothing you can do other than just wait it out, those are some scary, scary things to read. And again, whether you've been on medications and had legitimate withdrawal symptoms or not, the brain's perception of danger is massively involved, right? So the more terrified you are of the symptoms, the more likely they are going to continue. And if you have concluded and accepted that this is due to brain damage, your brain is much more likely to keep those symptoms going. And sometimes they can escalate. Sometimes they can manifest into many different types of symptoms, which don't necessarily correlate to medication withdrawal symptoms. And so it becomes this great big ball of fear. And again, for anybody who's dealing with medication withdrawal symptoms, I am not saying your fear caused them. I do believe there are legitimate withdrawal symptoms, but according to Google here, they should resolve in weeks. So for anybody telling you that you're in for a long haul, it might take you 5 years, based on what? Based on experience? Maybe. But is it possible that some of these people with these protracted, really long withdrawal symptoms were perpetuating the fear by the things they read, the things they were told, the benzo withdrawal communities and things like that, that really just fuel the fear and the brain's perception of danger. So again, I believe that symptoms are created when a brain perceives danger. Danger, symptom. What's the solution? Safety. So buying into the opinion that you are permanently brain damaged from these medications is not going to work in your favor. And I have yet to see real good, solid proof of this multi-year brain damage. Symptoms are not proof of damage. And so I know this is a very touchy subject, and I know there's going to be some people likely disagreeing with me strongly based on their experience. And I understand that, and I honor that and respect you and love you, and I want you to get better, which is partly why I'm doing this. So I do believe that conveying and trusting your body and brain to adjust to the lessering levels of medications with a proper taper, trusting your brain and body to adjust can only work to your advantage. Because if you go into a withdrawal terrified because of the things you've read and heard, you're more likely to get the symptoms, and they're more likely to be more intense and extreme and longer lasting. So there is something called the expectation effect. There's a great book by David Robeson called The Expectation Effect. And he is a science writer where he gathers all sorts of clinical trials, real medical trials, on expectations and their influence on the outcome of these experiments. And what he's proven is if the brain expects something to happen, it can create it. Other folks call that predictive coding. So if you expect bad outcomes and you're terrified, you're more likely to get those bad outcomes than if you expect a better outcome. Now, expecting a better outcome doesn't prevent something from happening. Because again, there are definitely legitimate withdrawal symptoms. I'm just suggesting that the fear and the perception that I've been damaged is not your friend. And so if you are going through or planning a withdrawal, go into it. Trust. Your brain and body knows how to adjust. These are saying that even if you get these symptoms, these brain zaps, most people have them resolved within weeks, not years. So, are medication withdrawal symptoms real? Absolutely. Fortunately, I'm blessed. I've never had to deal with them. And the only reason I feel compelled to talk about this is because I get asked about them so much. And so many of the people that I coach are dealing with them at varying levels. And from experience in working with them, the people who apply the concepts I teach on a daily basis of safety, tapering, I've got a young lady in the group who is tapering much faster and having better results than many would predict. Now, I am not encouraging people to accelerate their tapering and be reckless and any of that. Obviously, work with your medical prescribing doctor to come up with the appropriate tapering schedule. But if you're going to do it, trust your brain and body is going to adjust. And even if you encounter symptoms, trust that they will pass. Try not to get caught up in the, oh no, I should have never done this, now I am permanently damaged story. That is certainly not going to help you in any way, but I've seen enough people successfully taper without significant problems. They do have some symptoms, but the people who are more calm and trusting about it do better. And I can say that from secondhand experience in working with these folks, not firsthand experience. So again, if me never being on these medications and me never going through a withdrawal disqualifies me, I understand. I'm just sharing based on a lot of years of understanding the brain and symptoms and resolution of symptoms. And I don't know that medication withdrawals are dramatically different. Yes, there are symptoms. Yes, there are legitimate things that happen. But I'm not convinced that the function of the brain turning symptoms on and off based on the perception of danger or safety, I'm pretty convinced that still applies. So why not trust the brain and body to keep you safe? If symptoms occur, do your best to know they're temporary. They will resolve. Hold steady. It's scary stuff, but you can do a lot better than some people in the world predict. And if you are spending time in some of these withdrawal communities, no disrespect to them, but there's a lot of scared people having bad experiences, sharing their bad experiences, which makes it very scary for others to go through this process. So if those environments online add more fear, more negative anticipation, you may want to minimize the amount of time you spend in those communities, if not exit completely. Do your best to trust. Your brain knows what to do. It will adjust. And you can get better. You can get through this. So many people taper successfully. And so why listen to the worst case scenarios and predict that's what's going to happen to you, as opposed to know that countless people successfully taper off of these meds, many of them much quicker than you might expect. Trust your judgment, trust your doctor, your prescribing doctor, to set up an appropriate taper plan. But go into it with as much trust and positive expectation as you can muster, as opposed to the opposite, because I do believe it will make a massive difference in your experience. So I hope that makes sense. I hope I didn't offend anybody who's gone through some really, really difficult times. I don't want anybody to believe that I am blaming anybody for being afraid of this and therefore getting them. Because there are plenty of people who says, I wasn't afraid of tapering, but it just happened. I got walloped by a bunch of symptoms. And yes, that can and does happen. Some people are very trusting that, okay, I'm going to taper, this will go well. And then whammo, symptoms happen, sometimes significant symptoms. But it's what you do then that can either perpetuate the fear and perpetuate the symptoms longer. Again, not debating that this happens. It does. And I know people personally through my coaching that it has happened to. And it wasn't their fault, nor am I suggesting they did anything wrong. But after it happens, after they have that really heavy experience, that creates a lot of fear, justifiably so. But the sooner they can kind of step back and say, bad experience, and trust that it will get better over time, they're going to be better off than deciding that this whole process is fraught with imminent danger and peril and going through the rest of it terrified. So, no blame, no shame. Things happen. But the more you can convey safety and trust that the brain and body will adjust, I think the better off you're going to do. So, I love you folks. I respect you. If you're going through this or have gone through it, all the love, all the respect. And these are just my opinions based on interacting with many people who have gone through it and my observations of what appears to be their mindset, their fear levels, their expectations, and how well or how poorly they do. And so take this for what it's worth, just a guy's opinion. But I think trust the brain, trust the body, trust that you can adjust to this and it doesn't have to take you years. So, love you folks, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.